Okay, let's dive into this. Have you ever experienced that highly specific yet totally universal moment where you're sitting right across from someone, maybe it's a colleague, a new friend, or even someone you're on a date with, and they are literally saying all the right things? On the surface, the performance is just absolutely perfect. They're charming, they're competent, they're basically everything our social environment rewards. But deep down, your intuition is just ringing alarm bells. You can't quite put your finger on it, but your gut is screaming that this perfectly polished surface is hiding something completely different. Well, welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are tearing down that facade. We're going to explore the fascinating psychology behind this performance, and I'm going to show you exactly how to read a person's authentic, unfiltered character in just 5 seconds. I want you to pause for a second and really look at your own history. How many times have you been completely blindsided by someone? Think about it. How many times have you trusted a carefully rehearsed public performance or, a flawless, polished resume instead of actually listening to your own quiet, uneasy gut feeling? Look, we've all been there. We ignore our instincts because we've been trained to judge people by their actions when everyone is watching. But here's the hard truth. If you have ever been deceived by a false mask, it's because you were looking at the performance layer, not the actual person underneath. To understand why this happens, we need to turn to one of the most brilliant minds in psychology, Carl Jung. Jung spent decades of his clinical life studying what he called the persona. So what is that? It's basically the social mask constructed and maintained by every human being to present an acceptable, functional image to the world. And what's really interesting about this concept is that Jung emphasized that wearing a mask is absolutely not a pathology. It doesn't mean someone's a sociopath. It is simply the unavoidable consequence of living in a society that consistently rewards certain presentations and, frankly, penalizes others. We all wear the mask to survive and thrive. The real problem is when we mistake the mask for the actual human being. When we compare public performance to unconscious leaks, a really clear danger emerges. If you rely on rehearsed words, which, let's be honest, can be tailored for absolutely any audience, or if you rely on public achievements, which often reflects circumstance just as much as character, you are going to be constantly deceived. You literally cannot judge a person by what they do when the spotlight is on them. Why? Because those are precisely the moments when they're performing their most carefully managed version of themselves. But here is the secret. No matter how much psychological energy someone invests in maintaining that perfect image, specific patterns always slip through. So what we're looking for are the inevitable, unconscious leaks that completely bypass the mask. And that brings us to our first 5-second character reveal tool. Section 1, shadow mapping. Let's see how this bypasses conscious control. Because these unconscious leaks operate entirely outside the reach of conscious control, they give us a direct, unfiltered look into someone's genuine nature. You don't need hours of deep conversation. You just need to know what kind of shadow they're casting. Let's define exactly what shadow mapping is. It's essentially about discovering a person's authentic nature by observing who they judge the most harshly. This, in turn, reveals their own deeply buried, rejected qualities. Jung made this incredible discovery. What we intensely dislike in other people is very, very frequently the exact thing we have buried deepest within ourselves. We project our own hidden, rejected qualities onto others because, well, it's far easier to attack someone else than to acknowledge that darkness or insecurity within our own minds. And honestly, this perfectly illustrates the point in our modern world. Think about the 500-word furious comment. Consider the incredible irony here for a moment. People will literally spend thousands of hours and thousands of dollars curating the absolute perfect, unbothered, flawless online aesthetic. But all you have to do to read their deepest, most profound psychological insecurities is to watch what kind of stranger on the internet makes them angry enough to sit down and angrily type out a 500-word essay in a comment section. Their outreach isn't really about the stranger at all. It's quite literally a map of their own suppressed desires and fears. Let's look at how this breaks down in real life by comparing the outward action to the inner shadow. Picture a highly successful professional. You're sitting in a meeting, and you watch them criticize a colleague for being fake and manipulative. But pay close attention to the delivery here. Notice how their voice changes quality. Notice that their jaw is tightened. Notice that their emotional investment in taking this colleague down completely exceeds what the situation actually warrants. The outward action is criticism, but the inner shadow? That tightened jaw reveals that they secretly long for that colleague's social skill and fluency, but they've had to bury that desire beneath a thick layer of contempt. They aren't making a casual observation, they are confessing their shadow to you. So, the crucial point is to watch where the emotional intensity spikes. Now, let's move right into our second character reveal technique. Section 2. Mask Maintenance. The second reveal. This focuses on the incredible, unseen psychological toll it takes to keep the persona intact. Most people spend enormous amounts of largely unconscious energy just maintaining who they believe they're required to be. But you don't need to wait for a massive life crisis to see someone's true character. Jung discovered that when a persona is directly challenged, it breaks down in totally ordinary, mundane moments through micropressures. Watch what happens to someone's personality when their phone dies, abruptly cutting off the social media feed that structures their entire sense of being seen. Watch their reaction when they're kept waiting 10 minutes beyond their tolerance. Observe them when a joke they make in a group setting completely fails to land. Or, most revealingly, when they face unexpected criticism. These ordinary micropressures directly assault their curated image. When that pressure hits, here is exactly how you read the 5-second leak. Step 1. Watch for the microexpression. The exact moment the unexpected criticism or pressure lands, a flash of pure emotion, whether it's anger, panic, or disgust, will cross their face. Step 2. Observe the body language shift. Do they physically recoil? Do their shoulders tense up? Do they cross their arms tightly? This all happens in mere milliseconds, way before the brain has had time to catch up. And then, step 3, listen for the elaborate defensive justifications. Notice how quickly they construct a verbal defense, or even attack the person who criticized them, rather than pausing to just absorb what was said. The real character was revealed in steps 1 and 2. Step 3 is just the persona frantically trying to rebuild itself. Up until now, we've been talking about how to use these tools to read everyone around you, right? How to bypass their masks, spot their shadows, and read their defenses. But I want us to slow down for a moment here. Look inward, become real. Because the framework we are exploring doesn't just stop at observing other people. This brings us to the profound and, frankly, kind of unsettling pivot of Carl Jung's entire framework. Section 3, the mirror effect, confronting yourself. These tools, shadow mapping, analyzing mask maintenance, they don't just expose the character of your friends, your coworkers, or your partner. They are a Trojan horse. The mirror is reflecting back to you. The absolute deepest dimension of assessing human character is the inevitable recognition that everyone you are observing is simultaneously reflecting aspects of your own psychological landscape right back at you. Every single judgment you find yourself making about someone else's mask contains vital information about your own shadow. Every time you witness someone else's defensive breakdown and feel superior, you have a massive opportunity to examine your own relationship with vulnerability and failure. Now, this is a really critical fork in the road. The capacity to read human character so accurately is a powerful thing, but it can easily become toxic shadow formation. It can turn into a tool for psychological dominance if you use it solely to identify and exploit the vulnerabilities of the people around you. Honestly, that is just your own ego finding a new way to hide. The true goal of this knowledge is genuine compassion. It's about learning to receive other people's projections without absorbing them. It's about witnessing someone's persona break down without getting sucked into their defensive drama, thereby creating a safe psychological space where genuine human connection and real change can actually occur. So here is the challenge I'm laying out for you today. Stop using psychology as a defense mechanism. Stop analyzing the entire world just to avoid the profound discomfort of being genuinely seen in your own imperfect, messy dimensions. It is so easy to sit back and dissect the flaws in everyone else's mask. It is much, much harder to lower your own. I want to leave you with one final thought, one question that I really want you to take with you long after this explainer is over. What specific trait in others triggers your intense anger? Not just a mild annoyance, but that disproportionate, furious anger. Be brave enough to actually name it to yourself, because the exact moment you acknowledge that trigger, you are no longer just analyzing the world. You are finally looking into the mirror to discover the irreducible truth of who you really are. Thank you for exploring this with me today. Keep looking inward.